Hello and welcome to Rock Your Block. I am your host, Tia Young. Today we have an exceptional guest for you. He is a dedicated consultant, speaker, and writer who specializes in helping individuals and businesses unlock their potential for growth. He is the founder of the Expanding Path, a company that provides coaching and training services to professional services firms, focusing on guiding aspiring leaders to transition from employee mindset to a leadership mindset. By working closely with clients, he equips them with the essential skills and tools needed to thrive in the fast-paced business world. Drawing on his 22 years of experience in solving problems for customers, our guest excels at facilitating change and building strong teams. His diverse background includes roles as a historian, architect, naval officer, planner, and consultant, providing him with a unique perspective on how small actions can significantly impact work, teams, and organizations as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce you to the extraordinary Scott Jancy. Scott, welcome.
Thank you, Tia. I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Well, thank you. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it, okay?
Let's do it.
All right. Scott, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself and about your background?
Of course. I've done quite a few things. 22 plus years serving others as an architect, planner. Worked in management consulting for over 15 years. Working with the federal government, in the private sector, with education, tech companies, digital media companies, working to solve their most critical problems. My naval experience was a lot of fun. I actually joined the Navy to see the world, but I ended up right back here in DC, and just simply haven't left. But it all worked out. Learned some important things there about how to work with people and get things done. In my undergraduate degree is in history, which taught me how to see the big picture. I decided to go to architecture school after that, learn how to see the world differently, and learn how to create a vision for people to create buildings for them.
Right. So in your naval experience, did you get to travel around the world? Did you get
I
to
did.
see the world?
I did. Actually,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Guam, some other time in Hawaii. But it wasn't until I shifted to the consulting part of the business that I really started to put on the miles.
Right.
I've hit over 30 different countries on 5 continents.
Wow.
Working on large infrastructure projects, helping to create teams to work with different government clients. And it was there that as I was thinking about what to do next, doing that for 5 years is pretty exhausting.
Yeah.
I had a family and two young kids at home, and was looking for what to do next.
Yeah.
So it was at that point that I really started to put pen to paper as I was sitting in airport lobbies and hotel rooms by myself at night, trying to figure out what the plan was. And actually, that's where I started blogging.
I can't believe that. I tried blogging and it did not work for me. I'm so interested in how, and that's how you started blogging.
Absolutely. There I was one day again in an airport with notebooks filled with ideas, and I came across a few bloggers that were blogging daily. And I looked at my work like, geez, you know what? I think I can do this. So I got on the internet and set up a website and started typing.
Wow, that's amazing.
I hit send that first day, and nothing happened. I was expecting there to be a flood of people following me and hearing what I wanted to say, but nothing happened. It wasn't until several months later, still blogging daily, that I figured out how to market myself. I figured out once people started figuring out that I was online through LinkedIn and Twitter, where I was linking my work. People started to reach out to me and give me thoughts on how I might be able to solve their problems or improve upon whatever writing that I was doing. And it was hard work, getting up every morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and starting to type
Right.
and put something out there. There were a lot of posts that didn't see any action, and it's taken time. I think I'm over 1,500 posts now into
Wow.
this that
Wow.
I'm actually starting to gain some traction.
So how did you transform blogging into getting clients and
Well, it happened really organically and quite by surprise. It wasn't intending to do that. The blog was more of a way for me to simply get ideas out.
unwind
And
yeah.
yeah, right.
Yes.
Unwind, but also to express the lessons learned from dealing with clients and dealing with people, dealing with managing people.
Right.
Someone reached out to me one day and said, "Hey Scott, I noticed that you wrote a short piece on this. Can you write a blog post for me on how to more effectively communicate with my clients?" Sure, no problem.
Wow.
So I typed it up, sent it to them. That's great. It was free. Did that for a few more people. Those people, that led to me writing some articles for myself and for others. After a few more times of doing that, people reached out to like, "Hey, you seem to know what you're talking about. Would you have an interest in coming in and talking with our leadership team about a particular issue? Or can you come and talk to the teachers at our school about becoming a more effective communicator
Wow.
and finding their own voice?"
That's amazing, Scott. Describe how your coaching philosophy and approach to leadership development. What is that? Has that changed over your 22 years of experience?
No, actually it hasn't. And what I'm doing now is really an expression of the way I was working with clients a year ago, and also it's really the focus behind my blogging. And it's really approaching problems with a very practical, hands-on approach and providing people with solutions that they can employ immediately.
Yeah.
The work is heavily focused on one's context, their business environment, and problems that they're facing directly around them. That's enabled people to figure out very quickly what solutions are needed to create change, and both in their personal lives and also their professional work.
What is the biggest problem you see in your coaching of emerging leaders? Or is there a problem?
There is, and I think that it depends on the person and the group and the organization. I think the biggest problem right now, Tia, is the pace of change. People are faced with rapidly changing technology, artificial intelligence, people dealing with antiquated computer systems, remote work and everything that brings, and return to office. Oh no, I'd rather be hybrid, or no, I want to be home full time. You have situations where people are leaving the workforce to start their own companies. You have people that
that's true.
You have stressed out executives and leaders and managers that an employee leaves, that leaves a gap in the workforce. That work needs to go somewhere. Someone needs to handle it.
Right.
Very often it's handed off to the next person in line, and that person's left to figure out how to deal with it.
Right.
And they may or may not be ready to deal with the additional responsibility that's put on them.
It's interesting. I had a question for you that was going to come later up, but I think is appropriate right now. What do you do? How do you work with seniors like myself who, I just recently learned how to work all of my software. Now I got AI to deal with. Earlier this morning I learned of something called EI, for emotional intelligence or something. How do you work with seniors? Because it is hard for us.
Well, I would tell you, Tia, right off the bat.
Okay, tell me, because I need
not to panic.
I do though. I'm in panic mode.
Well, it's like this. I remember.
I can't work my computer now. It's changing everything.
I remember the first time years ago, 25 years ago, I went to visit New York City, and I came from a small town in Florida where I grew up, and I remember getting off the subway or out of the cab and stepping out with my wife, first time there, and just being absolutely overwhelmed at the noise, the different types of people that are moving back and forth on the sidewalks, cabs going by, people honking at each other, the cars honking at each other, the lights, the tall buildings, just everything happening, the hustle and bustle, right?
Yeah.
And similar to being someone that's struggling with how to make sense of what's going on around them, it's key not to panic. Just gather yourself, take a deep breath, and that's right. It really helps. And figure out what you need. With AI, it's one of these things where it's great, but it depends on how you might want to use it. I'd encourage you to dabble in it, work with ChatGPT or other programs for word processing and otherwise, and see what you can write scripts for shows.
You just said something. Chat. What is that? Because I've been getting emails from somebody, and I've been blocking it because I didn't know what that was. Chat something CHAPT.
ChatGPT.
I said, what is this? Block.
Give it a shot, and I think that's when you start taking a chance and starting to work with it, but also if you have ask a friend for help. I'm always available now to talk with you, but yes. It's one of those things where it's the pace of change can be very overwhelming, but don't panic, I think, is the message I tell you. Okay, all right. So then how does your coaching program help participants navigate everyday challenges into business? Right. As I work primarily with people that have been a variety of ages, either right out of college or mid-career professionals and managers that have now been tapped with leadership from either just through inheriting work or they've been promoted into a leadership position. I work with them in 3 different skill areas: adaptability, their ability to adapt to change, creating or fostering effective communication skills across various contexts, and also enabling them to think strategically, to make strategic decisions with their work. Yeah. All of that is predicated upon, actually the process starts with understanding that you really need to be treating people with respect, and getting the idea across that everyone's a customer. When you start working with your customers, your peers, your managers and your leaders, and you're treating everyone with respect, it creates a common ground and fosters positive relationships. When you can come to someone with with that baseline of respect, it makes solving problems a lot easier. Can you give an example of a situation of what is considered to be disrespectful in the workplace? Because it seems like it's changed from before I retired. Right. And I'm looking now, and I mean, of course, it's younger people that are in the workplace. Can you give an example? Well, I think a lot of it revolves around disrespect can come from a communication. Okay, communication. Even in my limited time in the workforce, I've seen the act of writing emails change. With the advent of people using mobile technology, texting, I found that people are writing emails in a much more terse fashion, very quickly, that kind of mimics texting. Yeah. And they're not laying out the full context of the problem or the situation that they may be dealing with. So if you're on the receiving end of an email like that, and you don't know exactly where the person is coming from, or maybe you're not familiar with them, or maybe they have an aggressive personality to begin with, you might take that the wrong way. Offensive, yeah, that could be offensive. So it's just being very clear on your communication and understanding that the way you communicate over text and Slack and on messaging services is very different than writing an email. Right. But treating people with respect, it gets down to learning how to communicate effectively given the situation in which you're dealing with. And you can avoid a lot of conflict. Right. And that way, even with just interpersonally. Right, that's right. Thank you for that. Scott, we're going to take a short break. We will be right back after these important messages. Stay tuned.
Trying to straighten your teeth yourself can cause serious damage and tooth loss. Moving teeth is a healthcare procedure that needs the supervision of an orthodontist. These are experts in moving teeth and aligning jaws. For more, visit mylifemysmile.org. Welcome back. You're watching Rock Your Block with my special and compelling guest, Scott Jancy. Prior to the break, we were discussing situations in the workplace that demand respect. And Scott, did you have any more you wanted to add to that? It's a lot of it depends. Thank you, Tia. A lot of it depends on the situation in which you're working. And just to reiterate,
when you lead with respect, I feel that your work gets a lot easier.
Right,
Because
I
you're
agree.
able to approach it again with a common ground, and it makes coping with change easier. I talk with my clients about adaptability and how you cope with change. And when you go to someone for help, and you're already working from a baseline of having respect for each other, it makes the providing feedback to the person that's asking for help much easier,
Right,
without
that's
stress
true.
and without attitude.
Right, I agree with that. What is the most common challenge that emerging leaders face, and how does your program address that?
Again, it gets back to communication.
That's a big one, isn't it?
It really is. And what I often find is that a leader or an emerging leader, a junior employee, may have been working in a particular part of the company for a long time, maybe specifically client-facing, solving whatever their specific problems are. The moment that they're saddled with, or maybe they even requested additional management and leadership opportunities, you immediately have to start communicating with people outside of the client.
Right.
You all of a sudden may need to talk to the contracts people, the people that are writing proposals, the people that are doing business development and marketing. And they may not have had that kind of experience previously, or have had the depth of experience to make them effective. And I found that the employees that are put in that position, if they're not giving the proper mentoring and coaching kind of along the way with, hey, this is how you approach these particular, this is how you approach the marketing department. Hey, you're briefing the CEO today. This is what the CEO needs to hear in your briefing. He doesn't want to hear about problems. He wants to hear about what types of solutions you're bringing, and maybe numbers to back them up, because he's concerned about what the bottom line is. Correct.
Right.
You might talk to the head of HR, who's concerned about the opportunities that your work is going to create for new employees. That person may not be so interested in the numbers aspect of it. So it's being able to tailor your message across multiple aspects of the organization is one of the toughest things for new leaders to learn.
Right.
And it's especially difficult for people that are introverted. And I'm an introvert.
Right.
I'm a trained extrovert, as my wife calls me. You can put me on camera and in front of groups of people and conferences and whatnot, and I can talk all day. But sometimes within a workplace with someone that hasn't made that that transition yet, it can be very challenging and very intimidating for someone. It's like, hey Tia, you have to go brief the CEO on your new idea. Okay, how do I do that so that they're going to properly receive that, so they'll support it?
How do you work with the small business person who doesn't have a corporation, they don't have a big staff, and maybe they're 1 year in the job, having all kinds of challenges, not having money to do a lot of stuff? Do you counsel them as well, or are you mostly with organizations?
Yeah, I've worked with mid to large size organizations, but I have worked with startups. And
how do you? What's the difference? Isn't that a little different of how you have to approach, or not?
Well, it is at one level. One person's if you take that employee who's just been given leadership responsibility with an organization, it's really no different than what a startup entrepreneur, a startup CEO, or someone that's trying to start up a business is facing either, because you're the center of the hub, and you're constantly working with a network of people to make things happen.
Yeah.
And so on one level, they're facing a lot of the same problems, and a lot of it revolves around how effectively can you adapt to change when something pops up that might be alarming, or it's immediately affecting your business. How do you react to that and transform that challenge into some kind of opportunity?
Right.
And that's the bread and butter of my work with people working in organizations. How do you take those negative things that happen and turn that into something positive?
Right.
Because startup owners are dealing with that every day.
Well, I'm thinking, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe one of the bad things that small businesses don't think about the fact that they probably do need a consultant or somebody working with them that has a little bit of experience to kind of help them because they don't have staff that they can say, hey, go do this or come back with this idea. Should more small business people seek the attention of someone like yourself?
Absolutely, Tia. And at the very least, to have someone to bounce their ideas off of.
Yeah.
To, say, and I've had these conversations before too, where, I may not know exactly what you're doing with the software that you're developing, but I do know something about client relationships and how to build strong relationships so that client
That's good.
keeps coming back for more. I also know enough about marketing and business development to give them some ideas on on what works well in multiple industries. The problems are all the same. Whether you're dealing with someone that's on their own or in a corporation, it's just a matter of giving that person the right perspective so that they can be enabled to sort that problem out on their own.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Given the context in which they're working.
Right. Scott, can you provide some practical tips for emerging leaders to start making positive impact in their workplace immediately? You had used that term a little earlier, immediately, trying to...
Right. Well, right off the bat, it's speak up. If you see, with the pace of change and with leaders struggling with how fast things are moving in the workplace, and this applies to your entrepreneurs and startup CEOs as well, things are changing so quickly that I'm always on the lookout and happy to encourage emerging leaders to get their feet wet. And that happens by speaking up. It happens by, if you have an idea, start iterating, start small, start working with it and see if you can gain some traction. Not every idea or every proposal may be entertained by your senior leadership. However, I always appreciate when junior employees and new staff members are coming to me with ideas to solve problems, because I'll come to them to ask for more solutions down the road.
How would you, let's say I came to someone with an idea that I thought was great, and they didn't think it was so great, and they were real quick to tell me that. Now I'm crushed. What do you do to tell the person to keep them up and to say, okay, you didn't get that one, but don't give up?
Right. Well, a lot of it depends on and you'll hear me talk about context of the business environment, quite a bit. An effective leader, an effective manager would explain why that idea is not good for right now. And it might be that, hey, you know what? I don't have the funding for that. However, come to me in another quarter, and I think we might be able to fund that. Or, you know what? I was just in talking with the CEO. His priorities for the next 6 months are A, B, and C. Your idea might work next year if this other initiative takes off. So I think it's a matter of explaining just more background and not dismissing ideas right off the bat. It's not unlike working with kids. I have 2 boys at home, and they're very quick to go, Dad, why can't we do that? It's like, well, because Mom and I are going out to dinner tonight, and we have other plans. However, we might be able to do that tomorrow.
Right.
But just explaining more of the background so that that employee can understand why that idea isn't a good one right now.
Right now, yeah, for right now. That's good. How do you stay updated on the latest trends and best practices in leadership development?
I read a lot, and I've actually found it to be very effective to use LinkedIn as a source for information. I'm very active on it, same with Twitter, but the search function on LinkedIn is such now there are so many people creating great content that you can type in an idea, how to use AI, for instance, your question earlier, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And you can find people to follow that are talking about whichever topic, how to use ChatGPT, how to use it for word processing, how to use it for coding, whichever topic you might be interested in, and find people to follow that are talking about those ideas. So I get in conversations. LinkedIn is set up in such a way that you can start to follow people and have conversations with thought leaders in those areas about how to approach particular problems.
Right. We have about a minute and a half to go. I've got 2 questions. I'm trying to see if we can get them
Sure.
in. One is, in your mind, how do we bridge the communication gap between the older executives and the younger ones coming in?
Right.
I'm getting so much feedback between the fighting, even on my former jobs when I worked on the Hill for almost 30 years, and it's just a wide gap. Can it? I mean,
I am right in the
and
middle.
even in my own household. I mean, I
Right.
have a 28-year-old. I mean, it's
Right.
just a wide gap.
Right. There is a lot to unpack there, Tia. And again, I'm right in the middle of that with my work, and even dealing with older members of my family and younger kids. And the challenge is being able to bring both parties together, but it starts with developing an understanding of what's motivating their behaviors. What are they interested in? Why are they acting that way? Why are they interested in creating a culture that's like this and not like that?
Right.
It's getting them to the older staff members to understand the younger generation coming up wants change quickly. Hey,
Yeah.
why can't I have my
Right,
change
right
quickly?
now.
Well, there's a broader environment to consider.
Right.
It's not to say that it can't happen, but we just have to understand how that it sometimes takes time. Likewise, the older generation also needs to understand that things are changing quickly.
Changing
And if
quickly,
it doesn't change,
Yeah,
then
that's true.
they may be water under the bridge sooner
That's
than they know
good.
it.
That's good. Thank you for that. Scott, how can our viewers get in contact with you?
The best way to reach me, Tia, would be through my website, www.scottjancy.com. There's a contact form on there, or you can send me an email at scott@scottjancy.com as well.
Well, I thank
it'll go
you.
right to my inbox.
I thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming
Tia.
today. We're out of time. And so I thank you very much for coming. And let's talk about coming back. I think
Absolutely.
there's more in you.
Absolutely. I've got a lot to talk about.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's that time to say goodbye again, and I hope that you have enjoyed today's show and meeting Scott Jancy. If you have any questions about today's show, our contact information is scrolling on the screen below. Thank you for watching Rock Your Block. I will see you next week. Bye.